Hello, everybody. This is Rick Manning, Americans for Limited Government. I'm joined with by Robert Romano, who's VP of Public, what are you, VP of Public Policy, Americans for Limited Government, and Tony Branco, cartoonist extraordinaire, who needs no introduction. Anybody who knows anything about cartooning and political cartooning knows that Tony is probably the preeminent political cartoonist in America right now. His cartoons are picked up on Fox News, and we've been doing exclusive cartoons with Tony for quite a while now, and have quite a catalog of Tony Tunes as a result. We've been working with Tony longer than Donald Trump's been on the political scene, so it's quite a while. Tony, welcome to the broadcast.
Hi, how are you?
Doing great.
Good.
Just want to get started by, some crazy stuff's going on, and you've got a unique perspective as a cartoonist. So what do we're dealing with this, and anybody who wants to ask questions or comments, please feel free to jump in the comments section. We'd love to be able to address those. But we had the raid on Mar-a-Lago, and for a lot of people, we can see it in the polls even, it really changed everything in terms of intensity, in terms of people's determination to do something to change what's going on and stand up for Donald Trump. How are you what's your reaction? How have you seen that reaction in terms of your tunes and what you're just generally thinking about it?
Well, I just think that the DOJ and the FBI have a huge hole to dig out of before they gain any credibility on this. That's my perspective. They've proven that they're biased, given the Hillary situation, given the other investigations that they neglected, the Hunter laptop. All that comes together to say, and then they go all out on a prior president, which is unprecedented. It just reeks of bias. And you'd think they would be a little bit smarter about how they went about things, given the situation. But it may be they're just their hubris and their arrogance. They just figured that because the mainstream media has all the power in the United States, they think that they can get away with it.
You address things with humor, and we're gonna talk a little bit more about the humor. But I want to go and Robert, I'm going to ask for your comment. But first, I want to take a look at a couple of the comments from the comments section. We're trying to be really intentional about getting to the comments today. So let's take a look here. Peggy Watson just wanted to say we do need to stand by Trump, and I think that's a sentiment that we all share. And that's one of the things that we are pretty determined to do. And quite honestly, it's one of the reasons we're proud to have Tony on board, because we can fight. And when we write stuff, there could be a little bit of an edge to it, but humor has a way of deflating egos on the other side in ways that just straight verbal or written assaults can't. And so Tony's an expert at that kind of satire. We've Nikki Gold. We've got to get Trump back to government to get the power back. Well, fact is, hopefully the power we get back is not to Washington, but it's actually to the people where it belongs. Tony, when you think about power to the people, it sounds kind of 60s-ish, but how do you try to make your cartoons into something that's more accessible to the general population? How do you keep your finger on what people are thinking?
Well, you do it with a little bit of humor. You try to have them. My cartoons try to focus in on something. You're speaking truth to power. To me, the media has all the power, and they are the Democrat Party, and they control all of it. So what I try to do with a little bit of humor is point that out, that if you're listening to CNN, MSNBC, NPR, CBS, ABC, all of them, the alphabet news, you're not getting the truth. You're getting a slanted, very distorted perspective. And that's one of my pet peeves. And that's what I try to do with my cartoons is direct focus on that. It's just a square so big, so and people are going to look right at it. It's not like an op-ed piece. I'm not putting down op-ed pieces, but a cartoon can be very direct. People look at it when they see it. Even if a liberal comes across it, they can at least get the point and maybe do a little more research.
Yeah, one of the things, and that's why we decided we're going to do something different. We've never done this before, but I've wanted to for a lot of years, and that is we've put out, Americans for Limited Government is releasing today a calendar for September of this year through December of next year, 2022-2023 calendar, featuring various Tony tunes that we had commissioned over time. We have an Ultra MAGA version of the calendar, which you see on your screen right there. That the only difference between the Ultra MAGA version and the Biden variant is the cover. And I'm going to hold up the Biden variant cover real quick. And that's the Biden variant cover right there.
Yep.
And so we have and we've done this. We did this for a very specific purpose. It's, everybody's going to get a calendar. Your family's going to get calendars that make for great gifts. But we wanted to have something that was on point at different points of the year that could remind people of, hey, this is what was going on a year ago in some instances. Our first cut was to go through and see what the most popular cartoon was in each month of the previous year. And then we started with the most popular cartoon from the previous year in that month. So it would be poignant to that year. Now we moved some things around because some of them became duplicative a little bit, but that was our first cut on it, to try to have it be relevant. So when you look at a cartoon, it's relevant to that previous year. Robert, you were...
Sure. Well, I just wanted to comment on the president's the raid at Mar-a-Lago, and also because he's exercising his valid constitutional powers under Article 2, Section 1, the vesting clause of executive power. He gets preeminent control over classification, declassification. And so here you have Joe Biden and his lackeys at the Justice Department raiding the former president's house, seizing those records that he declassified more than a year ago, essentially criminalizing what is otherwise a valid exercise of presidential authority under the Constitution. And so, yeah, we want to stand with Trump. And you can stand with Trump too, and get your Ultra MAGA variant here. And this is Trump. And we talked over with Tony this particular piece. We asked for it because Trump's been standing with us, and so I think it's time for we can stand with Trump too. And then Biden's got this speech coming up tonight where he's going to label millions of MAGA Republicans as some sort of extremist threat. This is unbelievable in our constitutional republic for a sitting president, to speak of millions of Americans this way, of millions of voters, because Trump would have never been elected if it had just been a partisan thing. He crossed party lines. He got independents to vote for him. He got working class union Democrats and other households to vote for him in the Rust Belt in Ohio, Michigan, Pennsylvania. And so the idea that there's just this Trump's just some radical, or the people who supported him in the 2016 primary or 2016 election or in 2020, that they were some sort of extremists. No, they're a massive voting bloc, mostly of Republicans and independents and other working class households. But yeah, Trump has always stood with us, and I think we should stand with him. And I hope you guys will check out these calendars. We've got also bumper stickers. You can buy the Ultra MAGA bundle, and you will get a Trump bumper sticker. Says "Stand with Trump." It's got the cover of the calendar there. You can get an Ultra MAGA T-shirt that has the Trump shield on it. But we also, if you scroll down below that, you can actually mix and match. Say you want the T-shirts, you want Donkey Wokey T-shirt. Hey, David, by the way, get the calendars and the mix and match. They're not there. They should be there. You might want to wait a minute there to order calendars from the mix and match, because they just need to be added there. apologies for that while we work on the store there. But you can also see here we're counting the sales. Let's see what we're how we're doing right now. So far, we've sold. It takes a second to load. There it goes. We got 4 sales, 28 unit ships. People are buying some stuff here. Over $600 raised. Thank you so much, everyone in the chat, for your support. We wanted to make it so you could get offer a variety here. Also, I wanted to show Tony's book here as well, because he has a book up on Amazon. It's called Keep America Laughing, at the left. Let's share that one. Here you go. This is Tony's Keep America Laughing at the left. And you just look up Antonio F. Branco and you can find it there. It ships pretty quickly too as well. Tony, can you walk us through some of your process for how you think about a cartoon on any given day?
Well, basically it's the top of the news. With political cartoons, you have to stay very current and on top of it. If you get too far back, people may not really be able to identify with it as much as they could if it's right on top of the news, because people, especially conservatives, they're paying attention, and so you need to be right on top of it. So I draw it from there, try to add a little bit of humor, try to give it a little twist, so that it gets people's attention and they feel good about sharing it.
Yeah, and that's one of the most amazing things about working with Tony is not to go too far into process, but that is we get 3 or 4 line drawings of different cartoons, and sometimes we like all of them, and sometimes we sit there, these aren't for us, and we'll sit there and we'll talk, and Tony and I'll sit there, and Robert will get on the phone, and we'll bang around some ideas. So it's so that's really, and so, you end up with some of our better cartoons have come out of that kind of creative process. And so it's really fun. It's really fun thing to do. But Tony, let's just talk about this speech tonight. You're a cartoonist. How do you do a speech? We've got the president, who we know his press secretary has gotten up there and essentially said, yeah, we're going to attack you. We're going to attack MAGA Republicans, MAGA people as being evil. They're probably going to talk about January 6th. They're going to try to create this. We have this evil group. And that's why we had to go and raid Trump's house in Mar-a-Lago. That's what this is about. How do you cartoon that? How can we make, apart from the idiocy of it, of having a president whose son has earned having his home and everything raided based upon his own activities? How do you cartoon this thing?
Well, you have to do it in sections. You can't make a wide, broad brush point using a cartoon which encompasses a lot of different issues and a lot of different angles. You have to just kind of go right directly sometimes to the throat, as far as what that is. In this case, it kind of is a process that filters into what is the strongest point I can make about this issue. Right now, my mind is kind of focusing on the fact that who are the ones trying to censor everybody? Who are the ones trying to do away with the Electoral College so that California and New York will be making all of our decisions for us? Who are the ones that are trying to stack the court? You could go on and on and on. If any party were to closely resemble, and I'm not saying that the Democrat Party or the fascists, I'm saying if there's any party or any kind of institution in our country that more closely is aligned to fascism, it would be the Democrat Party. And Ronald Reagan said it himself, that if fascism ever comes to America, it's going to come by way of liberalism.
Yeah, I have to tell you, Tony, that's absolutely right. I don't know about you, but it infuriates me. I'm sick of the left saying that somehow I'm a racist and I'm a fascist because I believe in freedom in America. I mean, somehow those things they're incongruent. And it's I'm really tired of the idea that I can be targeted because I have an American flag flying out in front of my house.
Right.
It's an excuse. We've turned the entire thing on its head. When the
Pure
FBI
propaganda.
and when the FBI says we really can't figure out, we really can't identify these Antifa people, but you serve the country in the military, and consequently we really got to keep an eye on you. That's it's infuriating, and it's and once again they have turned English on its head, and they have on so many different things, but we have to show them that we stand for America and we stand with Trump, and we're not gonna put up with this nonsense. And the best way to show them that is to blow them out of the water in November on Election Day. Right. When they won't have, they beat Sarah Palin in Alaska because Lisa Murkowski worked with the Democrats to have the Democrats who were voting for her candidate for Congress, the Republican, to vote the Democrat as the second choice. You had 65% of the votes in Alaska for Congress were for Republicans, but the Republicans who voted for Lisa Murkowski's choice for the House of Representatives were told vote for the Democrat, and that way the Democrats in the general election are going to vote for Lisa Murkowski in a four-way race. So she'll get some Republicans, and she'll get Democrat votes, and that's how she's going to get 50% plus one. And it's it's horse trading of the worst kind. And it's all because they created some kind of weird primary system where, you don't just count who voted. You count second and third and fourth choices at some point, which is obscene. Anyway, so Tony, if you talk to me about what you think the issues, what cartoons do you think you're going to have coming up, like tomorrow or the next day? What do you see coming down the pike?
Well, the raid is still pretty much in focus, but like we talked about earlier, the speech that Biden gives will probably give some kind of fodder for, some kind of focus on that. My pet peeve, of course, is the media. The reason the reason that Biden can get away with his speech tonight, ridiculing over 75 million voters plus, I think it's a lot more. But the reason he can get away with that is because of the mainstream media, our culture. You can go down the list. They just saturate people who don't really pay attention. They just watch a little bit of news before they go to bed. It could be NBC, it could be CBS, ABC, MSNBC, CNN, all those. And the CNN knows that, or the mainstream media knows this, so they run everything through the prism of what makes Democrats look better, especially around the election. They're willing to carry the Democrats' water because they are the Democrats and they have the power. So let's speak truth to power.
Excellent. I think that's one of the things that we're hoping people will be able to do is, and one of the reasons we decided to come out with this calendar, and we've never done this before. It's like I said, this is an experiment. But there's really, being able to give a gift to somebody for Christmas or their birthday or something that's a calendar that has a message, but it's funny, is a unique way of doing it. Boy, that was a quick picture of me there, Robert.
I was going to switch off my my camera, and go tell David to stick those calendars in the mix and match. I'll be right back.
So thanks. So it's and we put a bundle together so people could afford to get a couple of different things: a bumper strip, a Stand with Trump bumper strip, a calendar of your choice, either the Dom Kiwoki one or the MAGA Trump one. And then also a T-shirt, and kind of give you a nice bundle. It's significant savings on the cost by doing that. And like I say, this is one great experiment. The fact of the matter is, we picked the cartoons that we really liked, And we picked the cartoons that I described that the people chose by virtue of their shares and how many people actually, looked at, made the cartoon go.
Right.
And so it's just we think it's fun. We think it's going to be it's a good product. We've got them here, and they're high quality, and so it's not going to be junk. And so check it out, the merch store, and see what's going on. Robert, do we have the bundles up in the merch store the right way now?
I'm just want to make sure that it populates before I tell people to refresh their screen. We may need to dump the cache or something. Oftentimes when you update a website, it takes a hot minute before it's going to appear in the variants, etc. Okay, so it looks like it's there now.
Good.
We could reshare our screen here and take a look at the campaign again.
Okay.
And go to share screen. Okay.
We're ready.
Share. Okay.
There we go.
All right. So there's our calendars. And you can see here, if you just kind of click around, what it's going to look like on your desk here. You got a nice spiral bound there. But, you're going to show different, you're going to be hanging this thing up, right? So that's what you're going to get, a full page of a Tony Branco tune. We call them Tony tunes here internally. That's what the calendar itself will look like. And then there's also the t-shirts that have these the same design. So if you want an Ultra MAGA t-shirt, Trump defending America and the American people, from all of these arrows, from DOJ, FBI, rhinos, IRS, mainstream media, and Democrats, or maybe Donkey Wokey here. Donkey Wokey, man of dementia, strikes again. So yeah, these are the political cartoons of AF Branco. And so again, you can get the Donkey Wokey one. You can get the Ultra MAGA one. If you just want to buy the calendar, that's cool. You can get the bundle, and then that will let you get a bumper sticker. You're going to save about $8 or $10 there. If you buy the calendar with the bumper sticker, with the t-shirt, get all three. Well, actually, there it is. Save $7.98 on that purchase. Or you can just buy things separately. You want t-shirts, you want bumper stickers, and then you can also, let's refresh the campaign here. See if I think we do have an update, but it might not be populating yet in terms of the purchase just yet. That should be up over 700 by now. But yeah, you can add all of the stuff to there's the calendar. You can select that in the mix and match now. So say you want the Trump calendar cover, but you want Out of Touch, Out to Lunch bumper sticker with Joe Biden, Donkey Wokey there. You can get that. Say you only want two of these things. You want a t-shirt and a calendar, or a t-shirt and a bumper sticker. You can select those as well. Or save $8 and get the Ultra MAGA bundle. But this is an exciting campaign. It's very much an experiment, Rick. So I feel good about, I got to get Tony back on screen here.
There you go.
He's hiding beneath the comment there. When you share your screen, you got to be mindful that whoever's the third or whoever's on the bottom of the screen might get chopped off if you do that there. But, we really appreciate your support at Americans for Limited Government. Also check out Tony's book, Keep America Laughing at the Left, on Amazon there. And that's which cartoons are those, Tony?
Well, actually they're prior to Biden. So they go almost up to, I'm not even sure what the date is. The book was published a couple of years ago. So
okay.
If you keep that.
So basically, you'll be revisiting the good old days when Donald Trump was president.
But I generally put probably the top favorite cartoons that I try to stick with, timeless cartoons that other people will understand when they go through the book. People are still buying them. People are still commenting that they like them. And a lot of the places, it's still getting 5 stars, 4 stars, 4.5 stars.
Cool.
So it's still doing okay, still doing well.
Excellent. We have it here as a really and this is a book that I got into the White House when President Trump was president, and had it delivered to President Trump. So this. I can't say that President Trump. I don't know what happens. I didn't hand deliver it to President Trump. What they do is they take them from you, and then they put like a 2 or 3 books or things that have been left for him to take a look at that day. They'd put him on his desk, and then he'd pick 1 or 2 of them and take them to residence and, look at them and then do whatever he did with them. But it was and I'm sure that if he took them down to Mar-a-Lago, the FBI is probably may have it now too. So it's so maybe that could have been one of the things. We could see that strewn across the floor of the FBI, a classified Tony Toon book. But anyway, but we did in fact deliver one to President Trump with a note from Tony. So that's
the implication of going at the president, is that all of his followers, I think, are going to be very upset. And I was doing some calculations using Gallup survey data. When Biden mentions MAGA Republicans, Make America Great Again Republicans, NBC News has been running a poll for the past couple of years to see which Republicans identify more with Trump rather than the Republican Party at writ large. And it's about 40 to 50%. It kind of vacillates. Sometimes 50% say a party, sometimes 50% say Trump. In this case, there's about 41% are saying Trump right now. And about 28% of voters say they're Republicans, 29% Democrats, about 41% say they're independents. And using those calculations, about 158 million people voted in the last election. That means that MAGA Republicans, if you just count Republicans who identify with Trump, well, that's about 18 million people. If you do all the people who voted for Trump, well, that's 73 million people. If you include independents who don't identify with the Republican Party because they're independents, but they like Trump, you could swell that number up to MAGA, just 55 million. So 55 out of 73 million, or 18 out of, or 30 out of, anywhere from 18 million to 30 million, or 55 million people really support Trump more than what the political parties are dishing out. And oh, by the way, that's why he got elected in 2016. So when they come at the president like this, and when they start calling millions of hardworking, patriotic Americans a so-called extremist threat, I think people are going to be horrified at this speech tonight, because it's coming. That's the real extremism.
It shows exactly what this says on this calendar. This calendar front page, Donald Trump going after Donald Trump, they raided his house. But now Biden's going to broaden it and say 20, 25, 50 million, 70 million, 100 million Americans. You're the ones that are the problem. He's gone so far as to call us fascists. His minions have called us racist. And quite honestly, I'm sick of it. And the fact is, they don't give us a lot of choice in this. This is a situation where, he's going to bring unity to the country the press has said this is a unity speech by calling us fascists and un-American. I don't know how you unify around that, but it's really what it is. When you see this speech, just understand it's one thing.
Historically,
it's a desperate attempt to get people to come out to vote for Democrats in November. Tony, what were you going to say?
Historically, this is what fascists do. They try to dehumanize their opponents, call them everything. Look what the fascists and the Nazis did in Germany with the Jews. They dehumanized them. And then the next step is to jail them. Well, they're already trying to do that. Look what they've done to Navarro. Look what they've done to Roger Stone. Look what they've done to almost how many countless people. I don't know exact number.
Over 700 people. Over 700 people in the January 6th thing. A vast majority of whom were basically taking selfies and were tourists. So it's now some people, quite honestly, if you broke windows, if you harmed a Capitol police officer, if you did any of that kind of stuff, sorry, you get to go to jail. But if if the doors were opened up and they said, come on in, that's when, I'm sorry, but this is merely an attempt to keep an issue alive, to be able to create this kind of exact speech.
Right, but they're blending everybrush with the same broad brush. They tell us not to broad brush with Islamic terrorism. They tell us not to broad brush with a lot of different issues that come up. But it's okay for them to broad brush everybody that voted for Trump as one of the people that ransacked the Capitol building. Most of the people at that protest or at that speech that Trump gave, all those people, even some people outside of the Capitol building, most of them didn't go in the Capitol. Most of them didn't do any of that. But they're
Right.
trying to lump all of us into that.
And even the ones who went in the Capitol, you look at the pictures and you got these people standing there taking selfies and doing all this stuff. They weren't doing anything. You know, it's a, especially if the doors were open for them by the Capitol Police, which we know happened. So there's a big, we should have been done with this. The fact of the matter is, if the FBI wanted to figure out something, maybe they should figure out the person who supposedly put 2 bombs, and one in front of the Democratic National Committee building, one in front of the Republican National Committee building on that day. Maybe that's somebody they should try to figure out who the heck they are, rather than going off to Homer, Alaska and rousting a bed and breakfast owner because they thought the person who lived there looked like somebody who was in the Capitol building, which they
weren't allowed to put in any exculpatory evidence in the January 6th Stalinist trials.
They were not.
And that right there. So if the Republicans do gain the House and the Senate and they do take charge, I hope they open it up. Only allow Republicans to give the exculpatory evidence in this time without any Democrats.
Right.
Maybe
And
I don't know.
This is why I think Liz Cheney had to go. She was the Republican conference chair in the House, and then the Republicans are boycotting the January 6th committee because leadership was not allowed to put their people on there. Jim Jordan was going to be on there. A lot of conservatives were going to be the Republican members on the commission. They said, you can do a commission, but we need our members. And they wouldn't let McCarthy name his own people. And so he said, okay, we're boycotting it. And then Liz Cheney and Kinzinger stick themselves in between that and say, we'll be the Republican members. And it's like, well, you don't get to be the Republican conference chair anymore. And she was gone real quick.
Yeah, back in the in World War II, there was a name for people like that. In France, they were called Vichy French, and that means they were collaborators with the Nazis. Okay, in Norway, they were called Quislings. Whether Vichy or Quisling, they're collaborating on this hearing and giving it legitimacy is exactly why Kinzinger's no longer be in Congress in 2023, and Liz Cheney is looking for another job and hoping that The View will pick her up and allow her to be on that.
Oh, but speaking of Liz, she actually won the Americans for Limited Government straw poll for the most reviled candidate in 2024. And Mitt Romney, I think it was something like 93%. And then Mitt Romney, 89% said they would absolutely not vote for Mitt. So 93% said they wouldn't vote for Liz Cheney. 89% said they wouldn't vote for Mitt Romney.
Fake news, Robert. Fake news. It was 92.8%. You're rounding up. Fake news. She only 92.8% said they wouldn't vote for Liz. But she did. She beat out Romney by 3%. But Robert, who finished third? Do you remember?
I think it's Mike Pence.
Yeah.
So about 70% said they would absolutely not vote for Mike Pence. That's too bad for him. But at the same time, while we're trying to mount a defense for not only the president, for any future president who's going to have this problem where the new administration is going to prosecute the old administration. I mean, geez Louise, what the heck is Joe Biden thinking? He's lost his mind here. But no, I mean, Mike Pence, he's saying, don't defund the FBI. That's like defunding the police. Well, can we defund these political investigations? Can Congress get involved at all? And where the heck is Mitch McConnell? McCarthy's been out there. He's saying things that I think are supportive of, or against what the Justice Department is doing right now. But I don't see Mitch McConnell anywhere. And this lack of leadership in the GOP establishment. That's why people voted for Trump in the first place. And now they're just going to throw him under the bus after all he did for America. It's just unbelievable that a former president would be treated this way and his followers.
And let's just be clear. Mike Pence and his team, they were contacted pretty early by the J6 Commission, and they have been communicating with the January 6th Commission throughout the process. So it's really an interesting. It's really frustrating because I have some friends who are working closely, really staunch conservatives who are working closely with Pence, and I keep telling them, you guys, I will, I'll vote for Mike Pence, but he's got to be like the third to the last Republican available to run. But if he's running against Liz Cheney, I'll vote for Mike Pence. And that's kind of where we're at with
if the bar is set that low.
The bar is set that low. If it comes down to Mike Pence and Liz Cheney to oppose Joe Biden or his proxy or the puppet master behind him, then we'll have maybe we'll have to write in Tony Branco. I want to get to this one. No,
you don't want that.
I wanted to read this because I think it's really important. And Tony, I like your react. The persecution the swamp creatures are putting on Donald Trump is making him stronger and stronger and stronger. Along with the MAGA is getting stronger and stronger against the DC swamp creatures. Is that your sense? You live out in the real world. We're sitting here in the swamp or near it anyway. Is that your sense?
Oh, well, my sense is that, that is very true. I think people are enraged by what they see the FBI doing. It just keeps reinforcing their idea of the deep state. But what Biden is trying to do and the Democrats are doing, I sense desperation. I really do. If you're going to get in and holler fascist, and the way he's doing it, a lot of the stuff is, I think they're trying to break people. They're almost antagonizing the conservatives into doing something that they can deem as violent. And I think people should just keep their powder dry, vote like heck, get out there, because they're trying to break you. This is propaganda to the worst degree that I've ever seen it, especially coming from a president of the United States.
It's disgraceful. I think I'm so ashamed of President Biden. When he gave his unity speech, the inauguration, I thought that was a pretty good speech. And there was a speech he did, I guess when he was declaring victory, that was an okay speech too. And I thought that maybe he could put some of this stuff behind, because I pray for the president every day because he's the president. We only get one president at a time. And you have a unitary executive in this country. And so, you lose an election, you're going to try again in 4 years. If you lose again, you try again. That's our system. And then you have congressional elections every 2 years. The framers were geniuses. And I think that kind of cooling saucer of the elections is very, very important, I think, to keep in mind, because tempers have been running kind of high. But I mean, it's never been like this before. I mean, people should be horrified. People should be shocked and alarmed that a Justice Department would dare stick the FBI on a former president's house. And then now the president say, like just 2 weeks later, is calling MAGA Republicans extremists and terrorists. It's unbelievable.
And that's why we've been putting out take actions for the last month, urging people to contact Congress, Republicans in Congress, and urge them to stand up and fight, to stand up and defund portions of the FBI, send a message that this is unacceptable on any level. Because ultimately, if the Republicans in Congress don't hear from the people around the country, if they don't hear from the people around the country, what happens is they only hear from people in the swamp. And the swamp is a self-contained, kind of self-fulfilling system, communication system. And they all say, well, it's a little dangerous to do that. And, I was in the Capitol and I saw something happen. And so you get this self-fulfilling prophecy because they're all stuck here. That's why it's called the swamp. And so we have to, the only way to really drain the swamp and from an information flow on this is to just bombard Congress with information with people saying, no, I expect you to stand up for freedom, for liberty, and you're not putting your neck on the line with your constituents. You may be putting your neck on the line with the people who your next door neighbors, but I don't care about your next door neighbors in Washington, D.C. I care about what's going on in Washington State, in Idaho, and around the country, in your district, the people you're supposed to represent. And, Liz Cheney was a perfect example of that, because Liz Cheney grew up in Alexandria, Virginia. Liz Cheney's lived in Virginia her whole life. She basically went back and ran for Senate or Congress in Wyoming because a seat opened up and it was an opportunity, and she had the Cheney name to run on. She never lived in Wyoming, and so she didn't represent Wyoming. And so she goes off, she comes here, we get another representative from Alexandria, Virginia, We already have multiple DC representatives. We get another one from Alexandria, Virginia on the Republican side. And fortunately, the people back home said, enough is enough. We don't need the swamp representing us. We want somebody who actually comes from actual Wyoming representing us. And that's what happened. That's a big message, but it's a bigger message when their own constituents are talking to them saying, I expect you to stand up. And if you look at the end persecution one that we have, it allows anybody, if you sign onto that one, every Republican in the House and the Senate gets an email from you. So if you live in a Democrat district or a Democrat state, your voice gets heard by the Republicans because those people by proxy have to represent you.
And keep in mind, and also keep this in mind, Biden is a shell. He knows how to read a prompter sometimes, a teleprompter sometimes. He's being fed information. He just reads the teleprompter with whatever passion he's told to. And don't disconnect Biden from the Democrat Party, because that is the Democrat Party. He's doing all the radical bidding of the Democrat Party because he's no longer himself anymore. He's nothing even like he was 10 years ago. So when you go out and you vote for a Democrat, don't disconnect it from Biden. He's pushing forth their agenda, and don't disconnect. Even Manchin has gone along with it.
No, what another disgraceful display. He just completely contradicted himself. Oh, we can't afford to spend this money. Inflation's too high. And, if it comes down 0.2% on inflation, it's like, oh, it's not 9% anymore. Now it's 8.5% or whatever. Right. And he's like, oh, hey, now we can spend $300 billion. And it's like, what the heck are you talking about, Joe? I mean,
if you remember, if you like what's going on, you like the gas prices, you like the inflation, you like the high crime, and you like all the Afghanistan debacle, and we go down the list of a lot more, the open borders, the fentanyl, 107,000 deaths from fentanyl. If you like that stuff, vote for a Democrat, because that is the Democrats. Biden is only reading a teleprompter. This is the left-wing agenda.
By the way, Tony, don't you always have a teleprompter on your Biden pictures?
Yes, I do. With the Obama logo on it.
And what's Biden thinking in any of those cartoons?
Absolutely nothing. You mean the empty thought bubble?
The empty thought bubble.
Yeah,
it's kind of funny when we were talking at the beginning of the Biden administration about how to picture Biden, and the image that came to mind for me was how Doonesbury, what he did to George Herbert Walker Bush. When George Herbert Walker Bush was president, he basically shrunk him down until it was just the White House with a little asterisk talking out of the White House to make it so he was to diminish. And that was the way that Gary Trudeau, a cartoonist of Doonesbury's cartoonist, treated Bush. And so we talked about some of these things, and a lot of the elements on the cartoons have developed over time. The empty thought bubble, I think, was pretty much early on. The Obama teleprompter is something that subtly tells anybody who's looking at it who's really behind what some people call the Biden presidency.
We had that discussion. We had a discussion, and you said, "Can you come up with a way that signifies when you draw Biden?" You said, "Can you come up with a way that allows for the viewer to see that Biden isn't his own person? He's run by another." And I didn't want to do the strings and the hand strings like a puppet. I thought the best way to do that would be to put the teleprompter with the Obama logo on it to signify he's still attached. He's being fed information. The empty thought bubble, all that came together early on, like you said. So,
and about a year ago, you added an element, and that is if you look at the sword, there's a little bit of red, a little ribbon of red dripping off the hand there. And I think that came about a year ago after Afghanistan, if I'm not mistaken. Tell us what that represents.
Well, the 13 soldiers that died and all the people that died in the Afghanistan debacle, which we should never, ever forget when we're having these campaigns, when Republicans are out there. They should be talking about crime. They should be talking about inflation, gas prices, but they should also remember and point out the horrible debacle that Biden put us in against his own military advisors, got people killed. It got a family killed in a car with a bunch of kids. So from then on, he has blood on his hands, and I do that in remembrance of the 13 soldiers that were lost and the other people that were lost, and maybe all the people that are going to be lost in the future because of his irresponsibility of leaving all those military equipment, $80 billion worth of military equipment left behind.
So folks are, hopefully what you see is that elements in cartoons, there's a lot of different things that get put in. They're little nuances. And so now some of the nuances that Tony puts in just to remind people of different things that are happening in a small, subtle way. And that's
real subtle, Rick. We got the Titanic here breaking in half. The U.S. under Biden. Yeah,
I didn't say everything was subtle.
Yeah, got blood on his hands. We got him tilting at windmills. We've got Trump fending off the entire establishment to protect the American people. No, I think Tony, what stands out to me is how bold, how stark, how much of a contrast you are able to draw with the issues that are taking place, not just today, but over your career. And how long have you been doing this, Tony, as a syndicated cartoonist?
Well, this time I started in 2010 when Obama was president, because I was sick and tired of him trying to take over healthcare and force everybody into a crappy plan and rise everybody's prices. I was fed up with it. So I took some of my art ability, because I think it was Rush Limbaugh, I don't remember who exactly it was, said that everybody can do something. Well, I know how to draw, so I started drawing and putting him up on Facebook, and it took off from there. Twitter.
Wow. And when did we pick you up, Tony? Was that a short time after, or
it wasn't too long after that?
Yeah, our previous cartoonist William Warren, I decided he was going to go to grad school, and he wanted to open up a business, which is very successful, by the way, in terms of a PR business. And so I was looking around for a cartoonist, and I just contacted a bunch of friends. And somebody out of California sent me a Tony Toon and said, you ought to talk to this guy. And the rest is history. So we've been, I think, 7-8 years now doing these Tony Toons together. And it's really a great catalog. If anybody wants to go back through history, if you go on to our website, dailytorch.com, and you click on the cartoons, you can just click on the Tony Toons, and it gives you every Tony Toon we've ever had is there that we paid for. And then obviously you can go to Comically Incorrect. Is that right, Tony? Comically Incorrect, which is your site?
Yeah. I do post the archives of most of the cartoons I do. I've archived them there. But let's not forget the Sippy Cup. I just wanted to point out the Sippy Cup. Hannity keeps calling him President Sippy Cup. And I believe, because as soon as he became president, almost the day right around then, I put a sippy cup on his desk. And it wasn't long after that Sean Hannity started calling him President Sippy Cup. So I'm going to take the credit, if you don't mind.
No, that's fine.
You're cutting edge right there. And I just wanted to point out that this image of Trump here, this is accurate. This is exactly what's happening right now. And I just got to say, if the congressional Republican leaders do not stand up right now, not just for Trump, not just for Trump supporters, but for this country, the Constitution, principles under Article 2, the unitary executive, the assault on the Article 2 presidency that Biden is waging right now so that he could criminalize the actions of his predecessor. If Republicans in Congress do not stand up to this, the next Republican president will be the next one to suffer from this, basically. And this will never stop. But what's also going to happen is all the people you're expecting to vote for you in November, they might not show up. They might be disenfranchised. They might feel disenchanted. They might feel like, well, I would vote for Trump, but these congressional Republicans, if they're not going to stand with me, why should I stand with them? And so I think that what we see Trump here doing, this is exactly what he was. Look at the determination there. He is single-mindedly focused on making this country, I think, function the way it should. As you know, he's like, oh, hire a businessman, run America like a business. Ross Perot ran in 1992 on a similar platform against NAFTA. And there was always a working class constituency there that probably had left the Republicans behind. But Trump brought them back. People who had voted for Reagan, and then they just
they were called the Reagan Democrats, and then
yep.
President Bush, the first one, abandoned the Reagan Democrats, and then he raised taxes, and it ended up creating Clinton for us. And so and then his son came and gave us Obama as his legacy. So all in all, not a good look for the Bushes. I think one of the things that people need to remember is that it was in fact standing up against the Trans-Pacific Partnership, against the globalist agenda, that really unleashed the rhinos against Donald Trump. And that was one of the things that, because it was different. I can attest, when we were in 2015, we were fighting against the TPP. Americans for Limited Government was leading the charge against Trans-Pacific Partnership. We're against fast tracking it. And what ended up happening was we surveyed the Republican candidates who were running for president. And quite honestly, there were only 2 or 3 who were against fast tracking TPP. Donald Trump, we put ads up into New Hampshire and into South Carolina, voiced by Donald Trump before he was a candidate, calling the Trans-Pacific Partnership a bad deal. And we put those ads up. We ran them. We spent $100,000 on those ads. And when he announced, we had to pull them because that would have been a campaign expenditure. But we ran those ads. Afterwards, weeks later, 9 out of the 16 Republican candidates were either directly against TPP or were saying we need to renegotiate it.
Right.
So it had that simple act of standing up and having.
Right. The Republican Party, by the way, had not moved on trade for about 50 years. Trump moved them in a week by spending less than $1 million and by teaming up with Americans for Limited Government. I love the headline on his website. This is when I knew he was running for president. I wish I had it available. I could show you guys, but it just basically said, Donald Trump joins Americans for Limited Government in opposing the Trans-Pacific Partnership. And it was such a, kind of a morale booster. And we had the ad, we were running it on YouTube. You could actually find it on the YouTube channel if you want to go back into the archives there. But yeah, I had noticed they had just changed their website and all the CSS on it. I'm like, Rick, I think he's running for president. I think we just launched the Trump campaign. He's like, nah, no way he runs. Everyone says he's not going to run. It's like, no, I think he's running. And he was, and that was the tip of the spear. He came in second place in Iowa, first place in New Hampshire, first place in South Carolina, and he was on his way. The Trump train never stopped.
And recognize, and I'm a fan of Ted Cruz's, but Ted Cruz is the one who actually did the most on this because he did a Wall Street Journal article with Paul Ryan supporting fast tracking TPP, and that was why. And then I beat the heck out of him in a article, but that's what prompted me to ask Trump to do the radio ad. And so we had so Donald Trump, just to come full circle, Donald Trump, at the very beginning of his political career, because he'd never run for anything else before, stood up and said, I'm standing up for American jobs. I'm standing up for America first. I'm not going to let the standard operating procedure in Washington, D.C. to carry the day. And that's when you knew he was going to stand up for the American people, and he was going to stand up for America, because he did it from the very beginning. And he flipped how the Republican Party dealt with trade and how they viewed trade. We had 9 out of 16. He went from 3 out of 16 to 9 out of 16. When Donald Trump came out and hard on trade, they flipped their position because the people in New Hampshire and people in South Carolina said, I'm with Trump because he's not going to send my job overseas.
Right. But any other presidential candidate who then won election, that would have been the end of the story. Trump single-mindedly focused on that issue. He got new trade deals with South Korea. He did USMCA, Canada and Mexico. No more NAFTA. He got Nancy Pelosi and House Democrats of the working class variety to all vote for that. This is a president who reached across party lines to get things done on behalf of the American people, not just for Republicans, not just for Trump supporters, but for everyone. And so, again, for Joe Biden to then come back and say, ipso facto, yeah, that's extremist because what, we don't identify with the Republican Party that probably left our values maybe a long time ago. Maybe Trump brought a little bit of that back. If that makes me a MAGA Republican, I'll be a MAGA Republican all day. I'll be a MAGA Republican for the rest of my life.
Trump went to work every day thinking about what is the best for our country and what is the best for America. And he did those things. He put those things. He secured the border, got our economy rolling,
built the wall
for blacks, built the wall, did all these things. And then Biden comes in and demolishes it. We go into we're going into a recession with inflation, high gas prices. We need to connect that to him. It didn't happen while Trump was president, other than the COVID thing, which was out of his control. But more people have died under Biden. So we need to connect him to that. And we don't let them discourage us and try to, what they're doing is they're trying to discourage us with this fascist talk. You can sense desperation. So
yeah, they're trying to intimidate us. And when every word that Joe Biden speaks tonight, people need to say, I'm going to contact one additional person. Every time you get mad, you sit there and you hear it, you get mad. Contact somebody who should be involved. Make sure your friends and everybody who's going to vote to end this nightmare, make sure that they are registered to vote now. Make sure that they are prepared and they know what to do. Because ultimately, we win this because people get engaged and fight. And we're doing what we can do from Americans for Limited Government in a lot of different states. But but ultimately, the power is the power of the people. It is we, the people, and you have the power by virtue of the people to contact to make certain that you get your friends to vote, to go out and vote. It's a turnout election, folks. And if we don't turn out, then we lose.
The Democrats are really fired up right now, too, more than usual than you'd expect to see in a midterm cycle. And the only way to offset that is going to be, I think, Trump supporters who are going to bring Congress back. We're going to get to mixed government. I'm pretty confident the House can still flip this year. The Senate's looking, it's always harder for the Senate because only 1/3 of the Senate's up. So you're never going to have a national election in the Senate because the framers said, no, we're not doing that. we're going to split it up into thirds. So that, the House is really close to the people, and reread your Federalist Papers, because all of the answers to all of our problems that we're facing as a country, the framers envisioned all of these things would happen. They knew about the violence of factions. They knew. Reread Federalist number 10. I mean, I think it's very relevant today, particularly with what Biden and the FBI and DOJ are up to, but just even with Biden's speech tonight. I mean, God, how provocative. It's as if they think we're stupid, Rick, and that and Tony, we're just going to rush into the abyss and take the country with us. But the only one who's sinking into an abyss here, I think, is Biden with his rhetoric and threatening. It sounds like he's threatening people. People are frightened by this. Stop it. Leave us alone.
Desperation. I sense desperation.
Desperation is right. And once again, you look at headlines and it's like, oh, Sarah Palin lost. That's a sign of a Democrat wave. No, Sarah Palin lost because the way they set up the voting system in Alaska was designed to make it so Sarah Palin would lose. Okay, it was designed to make it so Lisa Murkowski could win the Senate again without needing to win a majority of the Republican votes. That's what it was about. Okay, so let's just be clear. We have you're going to get fed a bunch of garbage by the CNNs of the world. Even the Fox News poll is always crazy. Bottom line is, we control this election because if you're mad about something, let your friends know, and spread the word. And quite honestly, help groups like Americans for Limited Government. It really does matter when somebody gives us $25. It really does matter because we put that towards communicating, do things like this, going and being able to put actual content out, both lobbying on the Hill, but also mobilizing people on the ground. Those are the kinds of things that when people donate $25, $50 to Americans for Limited Government, that happens. At the very least, go to getliberty.org and subscribe to Americans for Limited Government. If you haven't already, subscribe and get our daily newsletter, Daily Torch, or the Capital Guardian, and you'll be able to get that, and you'll be able to go ahead and and you'll have info at your fingertips every single day, as well as take action items. And then last, without being too crass, I am going to go back and say, I really think that simply with humor being so important, giving people a calendar pre-election day. It's got October, it's got September calendar, it's got an October calendar, it's got a November calendar, it's got a December calendar for 2022. So getting them a calendar between now and election day makes an awful lot of sense, because it kind of reminds people in a humorous way what's at stake. And trust me, people will go through and look at all 16 of the cartoons at once. They're not, and then obviously they'll be reminded when they reflip it. But this is a political statement, a simple political statement that you can send to your friends that will leave a mark and will make a difference. And so it's a good way to do that. And if you do it one by one, you can literally just send it, buy it and then send it to your friends directly. And you don't have to deal with shipping or anything. Or if you want to buy a bundle, you can bundle it. You can buy multiple calendars all at once, and just have them all shipped to you, and you can hand them out at work or whatever. So there's lots of different options here. We've tried to make it as affordable as possible. We're printing these one by one. We're not buying 10,000 calendars in advance. So we don't get a benefit of having, a mass print job where we get a lot of savings on the printing. So we're printing them one by one. If it seems like we're going to sell a lot, I'll order a bulk order of them, that then can be dealt with. But that's one of those things where your investment in this, every single dime of profit in this calendar is going directly to the fight for freedom. So just understand, if every single dollar goes directly to the fight for freedom. So you're getting a great calendar, you're getting a product you'd spend $20, $25, $30 for anyway, and you're going to have a significant portion of that, it's about $10, go directly to the fight for freedom on top of it. So folks, this is and we did slash it. We came out, $29.95 is the retail. Our launch price is $24.95. So we already slashed $5 off the cost. And if you buy a bundle, at that point, you're going to save a lot more money on top of that. So folks, go to it. We hope you'll, and I know you will love this thing.
Well, I think we can wrap it up. Tony, do you have any parting thoughts?
No, just get out and vote, and don't let the prompter reader discourage you. And that's basically that's what the speech is. This speech is, okay, we may lose this thing. I better get out and give a speech that with a bunch of propaganda and pain in it, so that people think that we're less than human, so you don't vote for them, which has been kind of their strategy for years. So
I want to know how we can use the Oval Office, the presidential seal, on what is obviously a political attack speech that's more suitable for the floor of a Democratic National Convention.
Oh, it's even worse, Rick. He's doing it from Independence Hall in Philadelphia.
I know.
Yeah,
it's just totally disgraceful.
Well,
Unity, Mr. Unity, President Unity.
Well, maybe they'll read him somebody will slip the actual Declaration of Independence into the teleprompter, and it'll confuse the heck out of him, because it's written in cursive, and he may not be able to read cursive. So anyway, that's.
Well, we're going to wrap this up, guys.
Yeah.
We thank you so much here at Americans for Limited Government. And thank you for tuning in. Hit that subscribe button, ring the bell for notifications. Check us out at dailytorch.com. Go find Tony Branco at comicallyincorrect.com. The links are in the description for the calendar. You can get t-shirts and bumper stickers, bundling up. The Ultra MAGA bundle will get save you $8. And also check out Tony's book on Amazon. Keep America Laughing at the Left, the comically incorrect cartoons of AF Branco. Tony, thank you so much. I know you got to run. Rick,
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Tony.
Thank you, Chad.
Thank you.
And we'll
Thank
see you
you,
next
guys.
time. Take care.
Bye.
You take care.